This is Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, a podcast and radio program presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan.
Driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
And now, here he is, your host, Jim Ervin.
Baby, I'm home.
Well, thank you, Parker. It's such an honor to be here, and welcome to Time Signatures to all of you. I'm your host, Jim Ervin, and I remember asking myself in the middle of season 3 how we were ever going to be able to top what we did last season. Well, I'm humbled, honored, and blessed to have way outperformed last season, but that's not because of me. That's thanks to many people who are PR reps at record labels. Also, more importantly, a few friends that I've made along the way, like Michelle Seidman of the National Women in Blues, and on a more personal level, people like you, our friends, our listeners, and our supporters. I just wanted to say thank you at the top of this episode because we have another big name to share with you today. And so, off we go. Today's guest made her stage debut on what could arguably be called the biggest stage of her lifetime. If you can imagine this, the 1969 Ann Arbor Blues Festival was truly one for the ages, with blues musicians like B.B. King, Freddie King, Muddy Waters, Big Mama Thornton, and Luther Allison, just to name a few. Yeah, that's where she started. But she solidified her position in the Detroit music scene, and she also dabbled in acting, landing parts in 2 life-changing plays, Hair and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band on the Road. Now, along the way, she's recorded with the likes of Meat Loaf, Eric Clapton, and Bob Seger as well. I could go on and keep on listing accomplishments and accolades, but I genuinely love hearing these stories from the people themselves, and I would love to just turn it over to you, Shaun Murphy. Welcome to Time Signatures. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to be here, Jim. Thanks for having me.
It is an honor to have you, and I have to start at the beginning, as I do with most of my guests. What are your earliest memories of music?
Gee, I would say 5 to 8, I guess. My
Okay.
dad was a big music buff, and he brought home this little tiny record player, the kind that you see up at Walmart now.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a bunch of 45s, and he turned us all on to Elvis Presley. So we danced like mad, and we weren't allowed to even look at the records or touch them. So,
But you were able to enjoy them, right?
oh yes, we played them all the time.
Very cool. Now, when did the blues come into your life officially?
Well, I've always listened to blues. I had a chance to, well, back then there was really no FM yet, and so all the AM radio stations, if you could stay up that late, you could get radio from all over the United States, and got a lot of stations from down south, and a lot of blues and a lot of James Brown, which I loved. So I got a chance to listen to all that, and of course, 1969 turned it all around for me.
Yeah, that's a great springboard because that's the next question on my list here. You were at a place where literally anybody who's anybody in the blues was there. And I would love to hear your story, Shaun. I got to hear it firsthand. How did this opportunity present itself to you? And talk about this incredible event. Would you do that for me, please?
Sure. Well, I had a band in Detroit called the Wilson Moore Pursuit, and we played just about every festival in the summertime that was there, some a little bit out of town. And so we were called on quite a bit to play these festivals. And one of the festivals happened to be the Ann Arbor Blues Fest. And so we got a chance to play there. And normally the drummer in the band was the only one that had a car. So we all had to ride with him. And if he didn't like anybody in the lineup, he went home early. And even though we played with all these wonderful people, we never got to see most of them because he just wanted to go home.
Oh, man.
Fortunately, he decided he wanted to stay for the Blues Fest. So I did get close up and personal to see my hero, Big Mama Thornton, and she pretty
Wow.
much changed my whole trajectory. I was pretty deep into the rock scene in
Hmm.
the Detroit area, and also acting still. But it was fantastic, and as it turned out, my husband at the time, well, husband later, I met him. He was playing with Luther Allison, so that was
Oh,
kind of
wow.
a coup. But it
Wow.
was a time had by all. What can I say?
Yeah, no kidding. But what was that like standing off the side of the stage and watching these incredible musicians who were all by that time they were all really doing well, were they not?
Yeah, there was a big resurgence in blues back in the 60s, and it was great to see all these people in person. I mean, a lot of them were getting up in age,
Yeah.
but it was just magic to watch.
I actually have a copy. I have vinyl, and I have a copy of. I'm going to reach down and pull it out here live while we're doing this. This is the 1969 Ann Arbor Blues Fest on vinyl that I have,
Yes.
and it
Hmm.
it's got 3 or 4 albums in it. It's got reprints of the tickets. It's got reprints of the playbill. We have never seen a show like this. I don't think anywhere that's had this level of talent in that amount. Am I correct?
You are absolutely 100. I don't think they tried to replicate it in 72, but it didn't have the impact, sadly. But you couldn't go anywhere with that amount of talent in one space for less than $300 for per ticket to start. But I
Yeah.
think then it was like $10. Is there prices on the tickets that you
There
have?
there is, but I'm not going to open the box because it's
Oh,
really reflective. But it
right.
was it was cheap by comparison. As a matter of fact, I actually bought a copy of the ticket from 1972, and
Ah,
I will do that because it's on my phone. I'm going to zip in really quick and take a look at it because I can do it
yeah,
fast.
please.
Um,
We
but
didn't see the tickets because we were playing the festival.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So the ticket back in 1972, if I can get this bad boy to zoom in for me, here we are. $15 for all shows. And 72 was no slouch either.
No, no.
Um,
It
Boogie
was
Woogie Red
incredible.
was there. I know oh gosh, I can't remember them all. I know Steve Nardello was there playing. Several great musicians, and I have that album as well. It's a double album. Um, but I just, when you look at that, and the tickets were probably, like you said, around $10. I've got to believe that based on this ticket price.
I know.
Um, but it's something that I still hear people talking about, not just in Michigan, but all over the place. People are just blown away by the level. Whoever put that show together, man, that was their meal ticket for the rest of their life. So
It
talk
was
about go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it was just an astounding event.
Yeah, I wish I could have been there. I honestly do. I get to do it vicariously through listening to the vinyl, which
Yeah.
is every bit as cool. I mean, because you can't go back in time, but it's what I have, so I definitely enjoy it. Shaun, talk about that recording contract with Motown and Rare Earth Records. I'd love to hear about that too.
Well, that was back in some things that I was doing as far as acting at the time in Detroit, and
Hmm.
I was pregnant at the time. I think 3 months pregnant, and my husband saw a little blurb in one of the local little papers about they were holding auditions for this musical. And he says, "Yeah," he says, "You sing. Why don't you go down and audition and see what it's about?" So we went down there, and it was at the Vest Pocket Theater, which is no, I don't think it's there anymore, but it was quite quite an area to go to. Um, but it had a real dark theater when you walked in. It was just you could see the stage lit, and that was about it. So I walked
Hmm.
in. and we're standing there trying to acclimate to the darkness, and all of a sudden I hear somebody scream, "There she is!" As it turns out, well, they had the lineup of all of the judges right in the middle of the seats, and as it turned out, it was Meatloaf. And
Oh,
what
wow.
had happened? See, Meatloaf back in the day, back in the '60s, he lived in Midland, Michigan, and we used to play all these festivals together with his band. He had Pop
Wow.
Wizard and Floating Circus, I think, were two of the names of the bands he had. And so we got a chance to know each other back then. And so when he moved out west, he was trying to get a job and acclimate to LA. And
Sure.
he said he was in the parking lot of the whatever venue that was hosting hair at the time, and he wanted to try out. And they said, "Well, all the slots are full, but we're going to be opening a show in Detroit if you want to do that. And do you know anybody, singers? You know?" He goes, "Yeah, I do, but I don't know how to find her because we had lost touch." So
Hmm.
when I walked in, there was that big old voice. So I got up on stage. I did about I don't know, mm, one line in a song, and they said, "Okay, that's it. Thank you very much." I went, "Gee, that was fast." So I didn't think anything about it. "Thank you very much," and I didn't even get a chance to talk to him other than wave. And then so we went home, and later that night they called me and said that I got the lead in the show.
So for people that don't understand, when they usually say thank you very much, that means you're done. You're not
Yeah, see you
nothing.
later.
Goodbye. You move
Hmm.
on. Wow. That's
Well, in
crazy.
the South, we go, "Oh, bless your heart."
Yeah. Yeah, I have heard that a few times. That's usually not good.
Oh.
Well, now, Shaun, you ended up recording with Meatloaf. You moved to LA, but it was a serendipitous chat with Bob Seger's manager that led you back to the Motor City with a stint with Seger, correct?
I started working with Bob probably in the early '70s when I
Okay.
recorded Kathmandu, and with another lady. I can't, Rocky Berlin, I think her name was.
Okay.
And then that was kind of it. And I was on my own doing other things at the time. But I just wanted to touch back what you wanted to know about Motown.
Yeah.
Um, the opening night at in Hair, all of the people from Motown and Rare Earth Records were there. So that led to them contacting both Meatloaf and I and said, "We want to do a record with you two called Stony and Meatloaf." And we had no other than the whole gang singing in on stage, we had no songs together or like duets or any interaction uh,
Sure.
other than that. So we thought, well, why not? That sounds good. So that's how we got that contract. We did the record. It got released in '71, and we toured a little bit with it, and then I, it was right there. Motown was starting to be in a turmoil, with the moving and the Berry Gordy stepping back and Suzanne DePass
Yeah.
coming on board more often. So that was that. And so we just went on our separate ways. And of course, he clicked big time with a lot of things going on with him, and I was so proud of him. And he ended up coming back to out of New York, I think he was at the time, and I moved to Nashville. Here in Nashville, we reconnected, and he was really excited about getting together, maybe doing homage to the Stony and Meatloaf record, and having us do a duet song on his new record that he was planning. And
Wow.
I turned him on to a lot of Nashville musicians and studios, and he was going to um, just get rip roaring going, and then he passed away all of a sudden. So that was really,
Yeah.
really sad.
Now, I have to ask you, where did Stony come from? Is that something you came up with? Is that something they came up with? And how?
Well, back in Iowa, uh, where I was going to school, there was a band that I really, really liked. I think they were just a school band, but
Okay.
they were a rock band, and the lead singer was named Stoney. And I thought, wow, that's a cool name. Um, and so when I started singing when I moved to Detroit, I just said, I don't want to use my real name, and I'm not going to do this for very long. So I'm gonna use that name that I remember that I had. That's how I came about. It wasn't any ulterior nothing going on with that. Very
Do
bored.
people still come up to you and call you Stony after all these years?
I have a few friends that still call me Stony. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, after you toured a bit with Bob, you happened upon yet another powerful opportunity with Eric Clapton and Phil Collins with that collaboration. Love to hear that story as well.
Well, when I was first working with Bob back in the 70s and we were
Hmm.
touring, I toured with this wonderful lady, Marcy Levy, who's also Marcella Detroit, for those of you in the know. And so we had a great time working with Bob. And so as it happens, Bob disbanded. That was called the Borneo Band. Short-lived, but great musicians. Jamie Oldecker on drums, Drew Abbott on guitar, alto was in the band as Tom Cartmel. What else? Oh, Dick Sims was on B3 and kick pedals, so there was no bass player at the time. Uh,
Wow.
right towards the end of that incarnation, he had Dick Sims come off the pedals and he brought Chris Campbell on board. And so we played for a while with that incarnation, and it was glorious. We even went into the studio in I think it was Cleveland. I don't think it was ever released. That's something you might want to suss out. I think it's online somewhere. The Cincinnati or Cleveland tapes, I think it is. And he had Marcy and I do solo songs, and we were just like, it sounded like we'd had, too much good stuff, like we were on speed or something. We're like, yeah, in the background, pipe down. But that turned out fun. But I don't think he ever released that. It just somehow got on online. But
Wow.
that sort of faded away. And then again, we parted ways and did the other things. And of course, Marcy went on to do Shakespeare's Sister and a million other great things. And
Mm.
we're still great, really close friends. But Bob decided to, back in, I think it was 78, uh, Bob started listening a lot to the tapes because there was no singers in the band other than the guys playing the instruments, and he started listening to everybody. And of course, A being him with the records, which did have background singers on it, and he said, I'm going to bring in Shaun. So he called me up. I was staying with my dad in Florida, and he said, "What do you think about going on the road?" So I said, "Oh, sure." So I came back to Detroit and started working with Bob right then and there. And about halfway through the tour, he said, that does sound really good. I'm going to bring another girl in for backgrounds." And he did happen to know this girl. Her name was Laura Creamer, and she was under the guise of Honey Limited, in an all-girl singing band back in Detroit. And Punch, Bob's manager, was managing them at the time in this.
Hmm.
So no rehearsal. She comes walking in, and she's going to sing that night at the show, and I'm like freaked out for her. So we're at sound check, and she's like trying to get together and get the harmonies together because it was all new to her. So
Right.
I said, look, I have a plan. I'm going to grab you. back of you and push you up to the microphone when it's ready to sing. And then I'm going to pull you back when you're going to stop. We did that all night. She was wonderful. And obviously she was still there till the end.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, how about the collaboration with Clapton and Phil Collins? I would love to hear about that.
Well, that again was God bless Marcy Levy. She's always been in contact with Eric. Of course, she's co-written a lot of songs and written songs for him along the way. So, the core, Tangled in Love, and a bunch of other stuff. And so he said, "Well, I'm going to have you come and sing on the new record, but do you know any women with strong voices?" And she said, I do, as a matter of fact." And she called me up and said, "Well, Eric's people are going to be calling you to work this out." So they called me like maybe an hour later or something, and they said, "We want you to come down and work on the record." So I said, "Oh, great," and I'd love to. And it was in Montserrat at George
Okay.
Martin's studio, and so it had all of the Beatles and the Apple gear there. So
Wow.
just, it was all like, wow.
Yeah.
So anyway, after the first song, we're taking a break already, and Phil Collins was the producer, as a matter of fact, and he was stellar. He had everything, boom, 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 right in a line, no muss, no fuss, and he was just so organized, and it was just great to work with him too. So anyway, after the first song, Eric came in. He goes, "How would you like to support the album on tour with us?" And I just went, "Give me a minute." Yes. That's how it was. Those times were just one thing after another, it was just happening so fast with so many different groups that I worked with. It was
Yeah.
blissful. But I have to say that Eric was probably one of the best experiences that I've ever had. Of course, we did Live Aid, and that's another wild story. Just I don't know if you've ever felt anything like this, but I'd never had any experience like this. And we were getting on stage, and we'd tuned up backstage. So anyway, Eric was like doing a little bit of noodling, just to check the monitors and everything. So
Hmm.
then he started playing a couple of notes to the first song, and the audience in mass s- put out this huge yell. And I'm telling you, it was the hugest sound I've ever encountered, and it actually became physical. And
Wow.
we all just took two steps back. It, it was just phenomenal. I'd never felt anything like it. I mean, it was
Wow.
101,000 people, I believe, but in amazing, just amazing.
What year was that?
That was 1985, July 13th.
That was, isn't that when Queen went out?
Oh, yes.
Oh my Lord,
Everybody and
you
their
were
mother was on there.
there. Oh, girl. What? Okay. I mean, I could just go all night with this, but what was that like being at that particular Live Aid? That had to have been, I mean, what you just described is incredible, but I got goosebumps, man.
Well, that's the real one drawback of the whole experience. There were so many acts so quickly, and the timing, Geldof had the timing just down to a T.
Yeah,
And he he just uh we couldn't there was no side stage. So nobody could stand offside and watch any bands, and you could
sure.
hear them. And back in the green room, there was video going, but that was,
Okay.
not the same thing. It was like watching them on TV. So, that was kind of a drag.
Yeah. Well, Shaun, you've built a solid resume. There's no question about it. Touring with Seeger, also working with such notables as Hornsby, Joe Walsh, Glenn Fry, and one of my favorite bands, the Moody Blues. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about some of these experiences.
Sure. Again, that was in a time where everything was coming to me, and I was so grateful.
Yeah.
Um, Always been a big fan of the Moody Blues, and one of their tour managers, I guess, and I knew him, and he called me up and said, "Moody's are auditioning for background singers. What do you think? You want to come by and check it out?" And I said, "Oh, absolutely." So went down there and got the job, and we started rehearsal, and I don't remember. I think mostly we just toured in the United States with that particular part of their tour. But great guys, and actually some of a couple of the background singers that had been there right before us, they were like my best friends. So
Hmm.
that was kind of odd, but
Now,
that
was the band still together completely at that point?
oh yes.
Wow.
Yeah, Ray was there.
Oh, love Ray.
Graham. As a matter of fact, on the last tour that Seeger did, Graham came to the show, and I hadn't seen him since 89. I was with them
Okay.
89, 90, 88, I don't know. I try to write it down, but it's like cotton balls in my head sometimes.
Hmm.
I should have
You
done
you
it
weren't
along the
part
line.
you weren't part of the tour that they were playing with Chicago, were you by chance?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. Okay.
They were the main thrust of all the shows that we did.
Yeah. I wish you could see it. It sits here to my right. It's a 2 foot by 3 foot poster. Among the many things that are on this wall, it's never on camera, unfortunately. It
Hmm.
is the Moody Blues 25th anniversary, and it is
Oh,
signed by all four of these incredible artists. And I've been blessed. I've been able to see the Moody's three times
nice.
through the years. And one time was when they opened, or they were playing with Chicago. I think Chicago opened for them, and I was working at a radio station part time back then, and I ended up on the front row, right in front of Ray, and
Oh,
watching him play that flute during Nights in White Satin. Oh, you want to talk about an out of body experience?
mm-hmm.
But the other two, I got to see with the band after Ray was gone, retired, and
Wow.
unfortunately had passed by the last concert that I saw. But they have always been just a top, incredible band to go see live.
Oh,
Absolutely.
they were always flawless,
Yeah.
always,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
all English gentlemen. They were just
Yep.
so sweet to us, and we had Patrick Moraz was one of the keyboard players at the time when I was working with him, and he was so loud that they had to encase him in plexiglass.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it was just in this little bubble of plexiglass right in the front of the stage, right next to us. And he was still real loud. So I can't imagine
Wow.
what hearing he must not have had.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, what about this little stint with Little Feat? I got to hear about that one too.
well, again, that was on the heels of a Seeger tour, the 1986 Seeger tour.
Okay.
Um, Bob thought he might be retiring, and he said, "You know what? I had all these incredible players on all my albums, and I'm going to make a big band, and I'm going to go out and tour. If in fact this is going to be my last tour." So, of course, Bill Payne and Fred Tackett were on a lot of Bob's records in the background, and so he says, "I'm going to have them on." And of course, we became fast friends right away. And I had, at that time, they were still, Little Feat was still on a hiatus. Lowell died in 79, and then they went on hiatus up until 88 or something like that, I think.
Okay.
And so when they got back together, um, they asked me to come over. Paul lived down the street from me at the time, Paul Barrera, and come over and sing some background. So I worked on the first three CDs of the Reformation with Craig Fuller as front man, and then right after that, they were in the middle of negotiations or looking for a new record label. I can't remember. It was sort of not my arena to know a whole lot of that, but uh, they called me up one day and said, "Look, we're doing some pre-production, trying to get this label things solidified. Can you come over and help us do some home recordings and see how things are laying?" I went, "Oh, sure." So I went over there and we did a bunch of stuff. And at the end of that day, the first day, they said, "Well, we're also looking at this one song that a friend of ours wrote, and we can't quite get the gist of how it's going to lay. Would you mind just taking it home and learning it and come back and sing the lead on that and just see how it, because there's a lot of weird lying parts in the song, so
Sure.
it's kind of rough if we're singing it and playing it at the same time. I thought, yeah. So I came back the next day and sang the song, and they were quiet, but they said thanks. And at the end of that day, they said, uh, what what do you think about what would you do if you were out in the middle of nowhere on a bus with 13 guys? And that's how they asked me to join the band.
Wow. And you were with them for how long?
15 plus years.
Wow.
Hmm.
What an incredible story. I love it.
Yeah, I
Uh,
did 13 records with them.
did you really? That's incredible.
And they also spurred me back into writing, so I gotta give them props for a lot of stuff they helped me with.
Sure, sure. Now, you've collaborated with some of the biggest names in music, as we've already talked about. You're a double winner of the 2013 Blues Blast Music Awards, snagging the Best Female Blues Artist of the Year and the Best Contemporary Blues Album of the Year for Ask for the Moon, and also three Grammy nominations. You
Yep.
followed that up with your next CD, Cry of Love, garnering Blue 411's Jimmy Award. You've really been a driven individual, haven't you?
Yes, and I have to give a tip of the hat to my manager, TC Davis, who has spurred me on and has been my um, best friend, best everything, and
Sure.
manager, agent. He's been about five, six different things in my career, and I couldn't have done all this without him.
Certainly. Now, with all that you've already done, and believe me, it's a mother load, as we've already detailed here, what's next for Shaun Murphy?
Well, we're in the process now of doing a new record. We're going to do it at my very, very organically. We're doing it at my drummer's house, and I think what we're planning on is starting out with releasing singles. Uh,
Okay.
but it's going to be a real slow process. So we're looking forward to that, and it'll be my 12th release
Wow.
altogether.
Now,
Once we get all the songs that we want as singles, we're going to formulate it into a CD and do a big push with that if people want to buy it.
maybe a
But
little vinyl along the way too.
no vinyl, not yet anyway. But if you got donors out there, we'll be glad to do it.
I no matter if you have vinyl or not, I'll still buy the album because I believe in supporting the musicians 100%.
Thanks.
Where can folks go to find more information about you? Maybe buy some merch, some CDs, or book you for a gig, Shaun?
Well, you can go to my website, ShaunMurphyBand.com. It's got just pages of all kinds of stuff. And obviously, there's a store there. And my manager, TC Davis, for booking. And I want to see all my friends out there. So you bookers, call us. We want to get out there and do stuff with you. But um, his information is on there as well.
Okay.
TC Davis, lowroad7.com at gee whiz. Let me start again.
Sure.
Lowroad7 at yahoo.com is his email.
Okay.
And he's waiting to take your emails about booking. Come on.
And for God's sake, somebody in Michigan bring her up here, would you please? I would love to see
I
this
want to
woman
play Michigan
perform.
again. We used to come
Yeah.
release all of our singles at Callahan's uh,
Okay.
up to 9 or 10 that we did release singles there. Did a live record there, live at
Wow.
Callahan's. So yeah, that was a fun time, and I miss Mike Moss and the whole crew there.
Is the Callahan's album still out there available, or do I?
Yes, you can get it through my website. Uh,
Okay.
and please, if you, I used to be with CD Baby as a physical distributor, and they no
Okay.
longer do that. So they farm it out to Amazon and iTunes and all that kind of stuff. But if anybody wants physical copies, they can contact me through TC Davis, and um, I have all the physical work, and we also have a DVD of Live from Callahan's. But
Oh, nice.
yeah, we don't have
Nice.
that listed any place but the website.
Well, now I got homework. And, as I said, I believe in supporting my musicians that come on here. And I promise you, I will go to that website and look for some information. Shaun
Yeah.
Murphy, it has indeed been a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining me. And anytime at all that you need a microphone in the future for the CD, for a tour, whatever you have, you give me a call, have TC call me. We'll get you on. I promise you that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Wonderful show. I
Thank you.
I just had a great time.
Well, as I said, it was a pleasure to have you here, and I appreciate you sharing your stories so well with us. As we close this episode, I want to tell you all about the Killer Blues Headstone Project. My good friend Steven Salter founded Killer Blues in 2008, and since then, he and his 501c3 organization, that's right, they are tax deductible, they have placed more than 170 headstones on what used to be unmarked graves of blues musicians in 16 states. Now, his work is far from finished, so if you would please consider dropping by killerblues.net today and making a donation in any amount, whether it's $5 or $500. Every dime of this money is well spent as he verifies and orders more headstones and gets them placed so that no blues musician lies in an unmarked grave. Thank you very much for your consideration. And that wraps up this edition of Time Signatures. Once again, my thanks to Shaun Murphy, but also to you, for without you, none of this would be possible. Jim Ervin reminding you, keeping the blues alive is everyone's responsibility, but preserving the history of the blues, one story at a time, that's my mission. Until next time, so long, everybody.
This has been Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan. For more information on cabs, visit capitalareablues.org. You can find this episode and past episodes at lccconnect.org. The Time Signatures theme song, Michigan Roads, is used by permission and was written by Root Doctor, featuring Freddie Cunningham.
You know I'm trying, baby, driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
Until next time, keep on keeping the blues alive.
Baby, I'm